Okay. I want to thank my guest, my cousin here, Armando Williams, for joining. Again, this platform, I wouldn't say a channel, but this information is about or regarding reservation, incarceration, rehabilitation, and civilization. I'm a little late to the YouTube scene or to the platforms of social media. Yet it's never too late to share our stories and share our history and our traditional ways. So there's a spot and there's room on this channel or this program for everybody. If you're from the reservation, you're welcome. If you were incarcerated, you're welcome. And if you're in rehabilitation, you're welcome. And if you're like myself, I'm in civilization now. So I go throughout the county of Napa, one of the wealthiest counties, and shoot videos and content and share my life here in Napa County. Being said, I want to go ahead and pass it on to my guest here. I'll go ahead and let him introduce himself. I'll let him talk about whatever he feels like sharing, and we'll keep it roughly about a half hour. So,
All right. Oh, my name is Armando Williams. I am from the Pomo Nation, Mendocino County. I am the grandson of Leland, Panola, Darlene Poe, and I have multiple great grandparents from Kashaya, from Laytonville, and from Manchester. And so I'm tied into the coastline pretty deep. I'm 43 years old. I'm celebrating sobriety time. My qualification date for my sobriety is July 8th, 2022. And it's been a blessing for me to wake up every day and be sober, be able to walk this road in a good way. I've done it countless times. And like Sal said, I have very small sandboxes that I've created in my recovery. Number one, that comes as a priority and as daily maintenance and as a discipline is my sobriety. And that is every day on a daily basis. I'm doing something, and that's one thing that I noticed about Sal. He's doing one thing every day towards his recovery, his native ways, and his way of life. The templates that we carry are, for me, are very disciplined. And like Sal said, I check in on him because that's what we do. That's what we do as Native brothers. We keep our connection strong. During my active use of alcohol, that was my primary drug of choice is alcohol. Other stuff, I just see no sense in it. I come from the old school where I'd sit around on the reservations and watch my uncles and my relatives. That's all they had was a box of Budweiser. And so that I just grew up like that. And so me checking in on him, even when I was buzzed up, I value that relationship. And that's one thing in our culture is that we value relationships that are, that have a common bond, a commonality. And me and Sal's commonality is we're from the same cloth. We're from the same bloodline. We're firstborns from our mothers, the first male borns. And so there's a certain level that we carried. And, there's things that I value in Sal's recovery that I've been able to see for the last 20 years and be able to be a part of being able to see him take this next level. And what he's doing now is he's on the next level to start showing our way of life in 3 or 4 basic sessions. And that, like he said, reservation, incarceration, recovery, and civilization. I mean, I could talk for 2-3 hours, but I just want to focus on right now is what I'm doing right now in my recovery and what led up to my recovery. Growing up on a reservation, for me, I grew up on 3 reservations: Panoliville, Coyote Valley and Point Arena, Manchester, or Manchester Point Arena, I should say. And I was a product of the Indian Child Welfare Act, and the people that raised me were products of the boarding schools. And I didn't understand, I didn't have a cognitive thinking as a young boy of this reality, my reality. I was in survival mechanism and mode for since the age of 2, 3. And one thing about me is I have very good memory. I remember details. And I was taken from my mother. I was sent up to Ukiah, and that's when the Indian Child Welfare Act started. And so they sent me up there. Basically, I was just a money pit, I think, and like my clear, coherent thinking, and the evidence that I've seen, the evidence that has been showed to me, leads me to that final decision that I was just a money pit for the Indian Child Welfare Act back in the day. And it wasn't their fault. They were just granted a lot of money. They didn't know how to deal with it, and they got it wrong. And that was just the beginning. But the Great Spirit, Yakapte, he gave me a beautiful grandmother. She was a community health representative, and I got to stay with her in Coyote Valley for all the way till I was 17. And I grew up with multiple cousins. I grew up with multiple uncles, multiple aunties. We did traditional dancing. We did shakehead dancing. We did spiritual runs. We did baseball tournaments, basketball tournaments. We had summer food programs. So it was all centered around community. It was all centered around our generation. And the generation above us, you know, we looked up to them. They were in the sports. They were in the dancing. At that point, the Coyote Valley boys, they was really, you know, they were stomping good with the shakehead level, and they were getting really noticed. You know, the Ramoses, the Knights, and so they were all out there. You know, they were dancing at the Den of the Oaks. You know, it's still going on, and there was, for me, it was just fun because I was talented. I would use my talents in sports and in basketball and dancing as a way to express my gratitude for my mom. There's a lot of times where, as being a foster parent, was, she was learning. It was on the job learning, and you know, she had her biological family, but yet she had me, and she still loved me the same way she loved her biological family. And that was amazing. Her name was Thelma Pollard, and the most amazing woman in the world. And she was a gift from the Creator. And I think about her every day. I think about a lot of people every day that have been gone, that have been taken from this world and transferred to the next life. And I'm just blessed to be a part of it. For some reason, my life turned out in a way where statistically, Sal, I should be in prison. Statistically, I should be 12 feet under already. Statistically, I should have mental issues. Statistically, I should not be functioning in society. I should be angry. But I'm not. I'm blessed. Every day is a blessing to me. I take it for granted when I'm in my selfish way, and mostly my selfish way is when I drink alcohol. Is when I make an agreement with myself that I feel uncomfortable inside my skin, so I want to be comfortable inside my skin, and that's when I use alcohol. And I was taught that on the reservation. I've seen it growing up. I used to always wonder why, when they drink because I thought it was soda. Why would they drink that soda an hour later, they'd be arguing and fighting. And so just think about that growing up in that normalcy. And I wasn't really attracted to alcohol so much. And then when I started using alcohol was to get a head change, to get out of that perspective of life, because I was growing up, I was dealing with my problems, and alcohol took me down to a level of despair, depression, anxiety, pitifulness. But that was learned from my relatives, and they didn't know that they were teaching me because I didn't really like sit in front of them and watch them. But I would see them, I would see them while I was playing ball, or I would see them come home, or I would see them act like this, or I would be just happen to all coincidentally just walking around the res, and I'd see them, total different person. And the next day they were the same person again. So the reservation life for me was pretty fun. And I was talking to another Indian bro about this, and we had the commonality of like we grew up with bros. We grew up with running around the res. We grew up like need to get home before dark because something's going to come after you, or you're going to get dragged into the woods by a mythological creature. They call it the little man with the red eyes in Kaita Valley, and then they call it something else on the coastline. And so growing up and then talking to that bro like that, it was like it kind of made me smile, and just being able to talk to him about it. But see, that's what this channel's creating. So this is what you're creating, is for all us bros that are in our generation, in our younger generation, in our older generation, to come forward and say, hey, this is my story, and this is what this platform that you're creating is possible, and I know it could be done. I already got bros lined up for you. And it's that remembering of like, yeah, it was fun, but when did it stop being fun? When did it go to that way? And that's the format you've laid out is, okay, after that dream world of being young and having experiences of brotherhood, of being a part of community, when did it turn into a different level? So the younger generations that see us, they're in that stage right now of being young and having fun, and now they got cell phones. Now they get virtual things on their head where they run into walls and stuff, don't even know they're going there. And so what you're doing is creating something that a legacy. It's a legacy that's going to go throughout generations. I'd say, I'd say statistically 5 generations. 5 generations from now, we'll be able to see this. I wish that our great grandfather Ka could have did something for us like this. Imagine that power, bro. Imagine if we would have been able to see our grandfather on the screen and him tell us the real truth of like, okay, this is what it was like when we were being rounded up. This is what happened when I seen this. We're not going to any war stories. We're not going into any of my drunken log. I'm not going into that. I don't need to. But these parts is a learning process, and the intergenerational trauma that goes on with us, and the boarding school syndrome, and the inadequacies of the Indian Child Welfare Act. Those play a pivotal part in my story, but yet it doesn't define me. Like you said, you broke it up into this is my little life, this was my life, and now here's my life now. And so with that being said, this part of my life now, after I came out of that depression, that pressure, that fire, I see now. I see that they don't want us to take a little bit of that money from them that they've already got planted, that they already got together. They don't want those wheels to stop turning by somebody questioning and asking, hey, why was it like this? Hey, why did you do this? Why was it like that? They're afraid of those questions because in those questions, they have to be accountable for what they did, knowing they did that, knowing in their hearts they did that. And I don't struggle with that anymore. I used to. They used to make me a little upset, but I ain't got time for negativity. If I keep thinking about negativity things are going to come into my mind, and I'm going to start acting negative. And in this day and age, there's a place for that negative. And me and you are both survivors of that statistic. Me and you, we could have walked down that road easily and been somewhere else, but we're not. So the reservation life was the starting point for me, and I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate the brotherhood. I appreciate my mom, my uncles, because I had some really badass uncles, and I love them all to this day. I think about them all the time, and really, really solid aunties too. There's plenty of stories out there that a lot of Indians from our nation could relate to with me. And so now in my recovery, I've went from a native living on the streets, a native not taking a shower for weeks, a native sitting on the pity pot, a native not being accountable, a native not being constructive, a native not reaching out and being humble and asking for family assistance. It took me to be down and out inside. It took for me to be in despair inside. It took Yakapate to tell my wife to say the words that pierced my heart. And that was, if you love your children and if you love me, you'll get in this car and get help. And so that's what I did. And I've hit the road running. I'm very vicious in my recovery. I don't, I let people in. And when they relapse, I honor that, because that could have been me, but I'm not going to let them take me down with their pity pot. I'm not going to let them, bring that energy around me, because my why is my recovery, my family, and my community. And what I'm giving back is part of my community, because my recovery was given to me so freely, and my tribe helped me out a lot, more than I thought. They showed me love. They showed me that if I wanted it bad enough, that they would support me in any ways that they could, and I appreciate them to this day. So every month I call up there and I talk and tell them, hey, I got this month. Hey, I got this month. Hey, I got this month. Just to show my appreciation for shelter, basic necessity. I wasn't even on that level. So in my recovery, I took it very serious. And, I studied post-acute withdrawal syndrome. I studied the cycle of your addiction. I've studied white bison. I've studied the 12 steps. I've studied Al-Anon. I've studied all these certain modalities, we call them, to understand what works for me and what works for my spirit inside. And I put it all together, and I morphed this cycle, and I came up with, so emotionally, if I'm right here, it's anger, it's resentment, it's fear, it's all these different emotions that open that door for the addiction to come in. And then after that, it keeps going down, and it heads down to the south. And I call that the the relapse, the relapse awareness. If you're not aware of it, it will take you to a level of you will actually act out that relapse. And that's just this whole thought process, this whole prelapse, this whole there's this word that I used to call it. It's not routine, but what it does is it's like you go on autopilot for a moment, and then you get to the actual relapse, and in that relapse, And this is like you're already on autopilot, and that's when it starts becoming a physical dependency, a chemical dependency, and then you get into the guilt and shame, heading up, and then it's like this momentum, it just keeps going, and it keeps going, and you're just stuck into what, I mean, you understand, Sal, that cycle of addiction, that cycle of just this mind fuck, it's just it's intense, and it just hits you so bad that you look up and it's fucking 2 weeks gone. You're like, what the hell did I do for 2 weeks? I'm not in jail. Nobody's flipping me off and yelling, throw rocks at me. So I must have sat here on this corner and fucking it just took up air, existed. But so I live on that daily check-in early in the morning, 4 o'clock. I always look, okay, am I resentful? Who am I resentful for? What's going on? And I don't feel that. I'm constantly thinking about what do I do next what's going to make me better than yesterday. And I keep it that fucking simple. Okay. So if I could do better than I did the day before, then the next day it just becomes natural. Bam, bam. And the layers start just falling on top, positive layers, not negative layers. And then at the end of the day, what I do is I just count my blessings, bro. I count them, and they are sacred to me. They're something that I hold tight. And I know there's a lot of bros out there, they'll say it differently. They have their formalities of it, but I just get down to my essence, because this is my self-talk. This is what keeps me going. And there's clinical talk, there's dictionary talk, there's Webster, there's all this other analogies that they use, but this is just me in my raw form, because that's all I have is me. Because I almost died. My blood alcohol level after 3 days of being in a detox was a 0.50. That means my body was adapted to it. My body was trying to function, and I went off into this whole planet that I don't even know. But that event is the reason why I am the way I am today, is because I almost died. And I look at life now as I got nothing to lose, so I might as well put positive into this world. I've done it before. I've done it countless times, putting positivity into this world, but it's different now. It's like more thorough. It's more intentional. It's guided by this force that I just move out of the way and I just make it happen. And the civilization is, I want to touch on that a little bit, is I've been off the reservation since I was 21. And I made it a point to stay off the reservation based on the fact that I made a promise to myself, seeing the actions of my brothers sleeping on my mom's couch. And mind you, I was fucking so crazy. Is I came to this conclusion that my brothers were living off the welfare money that my mom was getting for me from the age of 7 all the way till I was 17. I remember, and it's crazy because I'm like, they were just laying on the couch. I was going to school. They were laying on the couch, then they'd get up at nighttime and go party. And I was just like, man, because I was a Native American, my mom got extra money for me and they were spending that money. I was like, so I was happy that my mom instilled into me, ain't no woman want a man that's lazy. Ain't no woman want a man that sleeps on the couch all day. She instilled that in me. So I was like, all right, cool. So then after that, I earned my keep where I stayed, whether it be at one of my auntie's house or whether it be at my grandfather's house. But once I hit my niche and I gave back, I employed multiple people from our reservation. They'd come up to my land and I would employ them because I knew that they had family that they needed to help. And so that was my way of balancing and showing myself that I could help people. And I've never looked back going to the reservation. I'm not saying that it's not okay to go back. I'm just saying that that's for me is it's just I created that own boundary for me, and there's a high level of confidence in it. That means I set the tone for the next generation, that they don't have to go back to the reservation um, to live there. And I'm not saying the reservation is bad, but there's so much more opportunity here than there is there in terms of living in the civilization of, convenience. I mean, you know what, we had S&B. we had the arena store, we had freaking Surf Mart. You got to travel miles. That's an event where I can just go right down the bike path and there's a Rite Aid, Walgreens, Safeway, coffee shops right down the road. And through this evolution of my recovery, I see that I'm going to be helping a lot of people. I'm going for my substance abuse counseling certificate starting in August, and I think I'm gonna try to work at the Indian clinic here. I give back to them because they've helped me along. They've helped me through this process, and they've invested a lot of time in me. And that's just one thing that show my gratitude, show that it does work, and hopefully our tribe gets it right. On a personal level, I hope that we could, get our tribe on a path to where our great grandchildren, 5 generations down the road, they have this set up because of what we've accomplished, and it starts right here. It starts with you creating this platform, because I'll tell you this much: ain't nobody else doing this. Ain't nobody doing what you're doing right now. So you're the one, and it's only right too. For me, that's how I say it's only right, because a man as fucking smart as Armando Williams has a mentor who's his first cousin, the first daughter of our bloodline, is the firstborn boy of our clan. That's only right. I don't know if you guys, they probably don't know, I'm speaking to the people now. I'm not speaking to you, Sal. There is a nickname. We all get nicknames, and so my cousin's nickname, I'm not going to say it because I fucked up and said it last time, but it's a term of endearment. It's a level of respect. And so what you're doing is gonna, you're setting the tone. I mean, I've talked to a couple bros that are just like, yeah, I'm into this. Yeah, just give my number, tell them. They want to hear them stories. And I told them the way that you asked me, these questions I didn't see coming from left field and right field, but I love the questions because the questions are real, and that's what it is fucking be real. That's all we ever ask. Be real. And I'll probably be speaking a little bit more, throughout your evolution. And I just feel honored that I'm able to be the first one to set the tone. And like I said, for someone as smart as me and someone who is spiritually connected as me, to be able to speak on this platform is an honor. It's a blessing, cousin. And it's one of my many gifts that I get in sobriety, is to be able to be on a level. There's a lot of things that I've created in my, for our people. There's a lot of stuff that I've done in the dark that nobody really knows, that are positive. And I'm talking about, going in front of city councils, and I'm talking about speaking on behalf of our people. I'm talking about fucking running from here to Arizona with the Pomo people on my back, literally 13 miles a day, every reservation welcoming me, knowing that the next 4 years there might be another Pomo running and I carried our nation with the utmost respect. Those are just a couple of things that I've done that are for our people, and I just give it away, just like now. And that's what we were just taught, is to give it away. You know, our grandfather, Leland Panola, he was he was he was a pivotal person in my life. Um, that when I moved to Manchester, our Point Arena, our reservation, um, he really showed me the next level of our religion, our spiritual way of life, and I thank him for that. So you know, the next generations like Wovoka and Omani, and I'm speaking of our male bloodlines, that they'll be able to pass that on to their male bloodlines. It's a gift from our grandfather. Um, so I think I just want to, end it by just saying that what you know now and what you are tomorrow is a blessing, because we don't know if tomorrow is going to come. We go sleep and we might not wake up. And I thank Great Spirit that I woke up. There was a night where I didn't think I was going to wake up because I was so hungry and I was so defeated. And he woke me up, and now I wake up. I get to wake up and do something positive every day. And I get a cup of coffee. All right, cuz, thank you for letting me share. I look forward to doing some more.
All right, Mondo, I really do appreciate you taking your time. So, but I want to ask one more question before we get going. It's kind of a story I want you to tell. So I'm going to say it, and then I'm going to give you a few seconds to collect your thoughts, and then I'm going to talk a little bit, and then we'll go back to you. So,
All right.
what is the worst thing you've seen on the reservation? I'm joking, because we're not here to talk war stories.
I'm like, shit, fuck, I got to pull my library out now.
I'm just playing. We're not here to talk about anything negative. What is your most funnest time growing up on which of the reservations? It could be short, it could be brief. A good story, a funny story, a humorous story, a lesson story. So go ahead and collect your thoughts, and I'll go ahead and share a little bit more. So I do appreciate you, Mondo, coming in and sharing your stories. Again, it was reservation, incarceration, rehabilitation, and the original one was reality. What was it like after all that? But I thought that's not a little bit too harsh. Let's just go with civilization. How is it like in civilization? Because, like they say, what are you going to do when that life ends? You either end up dead or in prison for the rest of your life. Game's over. You know what I mean? But this time we got to be fortunate enough to be in civilization and go on to I would say, the next level in life. At least that's how I see it. It's not about for this channel. It's not about views. It's not about likes. It's not about comments. It's not about any of that. So there would be no thing about comments or anything like that. But I do appreciate people that are going to share. If you like it, like it. If you want to subscribe, subscribe. But it's really not about that, which is kind of odd to have a channel not about that. It's more about our inner circle of our friends, family, our family, most important of all, and then our relatives, the Pomo Nation, then the Native Nation as a whole, California. Then if it reaches further out, it's good, but that's not its intent. Its intent is for us to tell our story to our kids, to our family, and then whoever else is out there want to be able to tell their story to their families, to their friends, and be able to watch, as long as the internet exists. Don't misunderstand me. I do appreciate people tuning in, but I'm not going to sweat it if I shoot a video and I get one view. It's, somebody is going to watch it and maybe hopefully learn from it. So
yeah.
With that being said, Mondo, tell a story about something positive on the reservation.
I was thinking about, like, okay, so I'll talk about this one time, me and my cousins, right? We were 15, and we used to play ball. It was me, it was Fran, it was me, Fran, Zim, Chubbs, Mark, and my cousin Nick, and we we went over to Mendocino. We were playing in a summer league basketball, and we used to play cherry pick all the time. And so we went over there. We beat the hell out of Point Arena High School and Mendocino High School, their JV squad. And we were just playing fucking five. They had two squad, they had like 20 players, whatever. We only had 5 players. We beat the shit out of them, right? And we were just having fun. And like halfway between the game, we got into a fight with each other because they weren't throwing the ball to one of us because we were doing so good. Our cousin, who was a badass rebounder, he was just like lasers, boom, turn around, boom, like a football. And next thing you know, I moved to Point Arena, and I'm going to high school. And I get to talking to Warren Galletti, who was the wood shop teacher, and he goes, I remember you. He goes, we had to reform our defense around you guys. He goes, man, you guys are so good. I said, shit, we was half drunk. Oh my God. Oh man, it was crazy. He was like, no. And I said, yeah, we had a little bit, fucking with him and shit. But it was like how I went from Coyote Valley to over there, in small motherfucking world. I'm talking to the coach that like he freaking was the coach that had to restructure his defense because cherry picking showed his weakness, and we were just res kids having fun. Never really played organized basketball, but just like in the middle schools, and some of us played basketball on high school level. But it was just a trip of just how that brotherhood was. We knew each other like in and out because we spent weekends together, we spent nights together, we spent sports together, we spent dancing together. So there was this brotherhood, and that was just like, okay, so that was the baby life. Now on the spiritual life, first time I danced in the roundhouse, my grandfather, my great grandmother Faye was sitting there, and I came out and we were dancing, and I remember seeing her. She was staring at me. I seen her through my flicker bands, and I went over there and I danced in front of her. I grabbed her hand, and then I came back out and danced, and and then the show off dance came, right? Mind you, our grandmother Faye never danced for anybody, but when I went out on my show off, she got up and danced, and she threw pennies at me. And so that was like one of the most honorable things. And everybody that was in the roundhouse was shocked. They said, Auntie never dances for anybody. And grandfather was sitting there, and he was the commander, and he just sat there. And it was the most blessing. It was amazing that our bloodline was honored, and I was honored by our great grandmother. And so that's like the most amazing time on the reservation in our spiritual level. And my most favorite time was for the Manchester side was when me and you, when our grandfather passed away, we went to his grave and we sang. A lot of people don't know that I used to go visit grandfather at his. Your mom does. Your mom and Aunt Merle, or not Merle, but Aunt Marilyn. They know I used to go visit grandfather every Thursday when he was in that home, or whatever they called it. I just call it a place, and going to visit him there, and then I went in there, and it was when I was making money, and I went in there and I bought him like $600 worth of stuff, duvet covered pillows, shoes, or not, slippers and everything like that. And this one lady comes in and she's like, you need to write his name down or people are going to take his stuff. So I sat there for like 2 hours writing his name, and that's when he had that thing on his face, and he said, and he looked kind of ashamed. So, he kind of turned away, and I would be too. So I don't blame him. I go, okay, Grandpa, I'll ask questions. You shake your head, yes or no. That's how we'll communicate. He goes, all right. So we sat there for a couple of times and we watched baseball games together, that asking questions. And, those little moments, to be able to bless our elders like that, he took that with him. He took that, he thought about that. But yeah, it's a good. I love being native. You know, we could go on. Shit, we could use. You know, the whole. We could go for hours talking about the old ways. But you know, I just want to keep it down to the basics and set a tone for the next speaker. And I, I know you're going to do good, cousin, in this, and I appreciate you letting me take the time to talk.
Oh, thank you, Mondo. So one thing I want to end with, again, appreciate you joining. And if you know anyone, anyone knows anybody out there that wants to get on here and tell their story, be able to set the record straight for themselves, what they're doing.
Get in here. Get in here.
We'll be able to show your video as well. So one thing I want to note on too is a statistic that they say 4 out of 5 Native American women experience some form of domestic violence, which is crazy. 4 out of 5. But there's a stat that says 3 out of 5 Native American men suffer a sexual assault, domestic violence. 3 out of 5, which is pretty mind blowing. But 4 out of 5 Native women, 4 out of 5, that stat is high.
Yeah,
it's sad. But on a good note, that's just a quick stat that I had found many years ago. But a good note though is that us Native American, we have the highest rate of recovery than any other race or minority, and I guess you would say in recovery, because of our traditional ways, because of our culture, because of our way of life. It's just a matter of putting those links together and staying on that path. And you know, it's possible for everyone to get their life together. It's never too late. It's never too late, man. Always push that reset button, start all over, learn from your mistakes, and keep going. You know, you only live once. You only live once, you know, and it's what you're going to do. How do you want to tell your story? You want to leave a good story, you want to leave a bad story. And one thing that I started noticing is that we're starting to be the elders in our into late 40s, because a lot of the 50-year-olds and 60-year-old males, they're dying either because of drugs and alcohol, overdosing, obesity, blood pressure, diabetes. So that's that. There's just that gap. You know what I mean? It ain't a shitload of 50, 60, 70-year-old, you know, young active natives. You know what I mean?
right.
I'm a young old man. You know what I mean? I'm born in 1975. You know what I mean? I'm not old, but I'm not young. And what my motto is, I'm too old to be young and too young to be old. But at the same time, you know, I just want to be able to enjoy life. With that being said, I want to thank everyone for watching, and see you next time.